What's up with it? Die Hard Show, the People's Coach, Cornelius Cole. Uh, man, Heat versus Nuggets. That's where we're going to start with the Heat versus Nuggets. Man, uh, been a long run for both sides, but it seemed like Denver had the easier track. They ran through the West. Maybe their toughest challenge was uh, Phoenix, maybe, or maybe it was the first round. Either way, they swept the Lakers. Now you see they've been sitting there waiting on Miami to finish with Boston. Miami jumped out to that 3-0 lead, and it seemed like Boston was coming back. I was even believing that Boston was coming back. Oh, look at the collapse of Miami. And then in that game 7, Boston just fell apart. But I done said it quite a few times here, people. They just can't. Boston, they just slow with the mental aspects of the game. And they seem to get frustrated when things don't go their way. When they shot not falling, they sort of like reminded me of what happened to Golden State in that game 6 or whatever it was against the LA Lakers, where it's like if that one shot not falling, then they don't have nothing else to go to. Now, granted, Jason Tatum did get injured. Everybody saw that. But I thought being superstars, you had game and you could switch your game. The guy couldn't switch his game. So he was basically just standing out there. Once he turned his ankle, he was no good. It was just like hardly any defense, hardly any offense, standing around on both ends of the court. And the coach never thought to take him out and try something different if he's not going to give you 100% effort. But he was giving you what he could, but he couldn't give you nothing. But my thing is that he to the elbow, couldn't post up. I mean, no, that's what I was saying about the Celtics. Al Horford, none of that. It's not just Tatum and Brown. Brown had a bad game. I mean, he was pitiful. He was awful as far as shooting the rock, and he was awful as far as trying to make plays, like turning the ball over. Everybody pointing out the 8 turnovers, but nobody really looking at what about the rest of those guys? Horford, Williams. White brought his game somewhat, and if somebody would have came with him, but the other Williams, both of the Williams dudes, Hartford, you looking at Smart, none of those guys were giving you anything. And the 6th man of the year, Brogdon, he disappeared. The whole series pretty much Brogdon disappeared. I think, that's another thing about the confidence issues and stuff like that. And then it's like the coach never really I don't know what the coach was telling them on the sideline, what kind of adjustments to make, but it seemed like whatever Missoula was saying, it wasn't getting communicated to the players on the court, because the players, sometimes you just got to put the onus on the players, man. They just didn't live up to the bill. Like maybe they worked too hard, and maybe they ran out of gas, trying to claw back into a series where they was down 3-0 and they tied it up at 3 games apiece, but then they weren't able to do nothing in the game 7. I mean, to get blown out on your home floor in the game 7, it goes to the for me, it goes to the mental aspects. Like I said, nobody was trying to attack the basket, doing some of the things that they did to get in the series. And then Caleb Martin on the other side. I mean, you take nothing away from the Heat. The Heat as an 8 seed, impressive 8 seed. Now everybody want to talk about them barely getting into the playoffs. I remember when you can go back and you can check the footage on my rants where I was like, the Heat barely make the playoffs. They're not going to get out of the first round. They weren't going to beat the Bucks, and they surprised me even as far as they went. Jimmy Butler, which brings me to Jimmy Butler. He the real deal, man. Jimmy Butler's real deal to other people. The way he balled, man, it's just unbelievable the way he balled. But my question is, where does Jimmy rank? Is he top 10? I mean, if we Tatum and Brown locking them up, stop that. Brown been, I think, like years. So the Boston knocking on the door. I mean, what more do you want? If you can't be in a championship game or be the champion, the next best thing is to be in the conference finals game every year, playing for the championship. And that's pretty much what the Boston Celtics been doing. So my thing is, why even talk about breaking them up? I mean, whatever money it costs to keep Brown. Now, if Brown don't want to stay, that's different or whatever. But all that talk about breaking Tatum and Brown up for what? Where else you gonna go where you have that many opportunities, that many bites at the apple? Some teams struggling to get one. Well, as players, like for instance, Carmelo Anthony just retired. Like, how many times was he in that big game, that Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, things like that? So you have to take those things into consideration. And he Hall of Fame, and he never made it to a championship. The Boston Celtics, they right there knocking on the door every year, and they top two stars are 25 and 26 years old. I mean, what more do you want? Jimmy Butler been in the league 12 years. He just now getting his just due, even though he went 2020. He took the same Heat squad. Well, he took the Heat squad to the finals and wasn't getting the props that he getting now, wasn't getting the accolades that he getting now and everything. So Jimmy Butler had to work extra hard. I mean, the grind that he put in. Remember when he was in Chicago and it was like, he ain't that good. He wasn't that good. Let's just face it. He couldn't shoot. Dude couldn't hit the water if he fell out the boat. You know, that old Madden expression. He couldn't. I mean, that was Jimmy Buckets back then. I mean, he worked on his game, constantly worked, constantly put himself in a position to be called on the court. I mean, that's what you got to respect these players, man. But you can't knock Tatum and Brown and say that they don't deserve to be there, or that they can't win together. We don't know if they can win together. I mean, how many years was Magic, Kareem, and Worthy together? How many years? I mean, you know, if Boston decides to do it the traditional way and keep their squad together, then I understand that. Now, it's some pieces that I would move. I would move Al Horford because he gives you, if his 3-point shot not falling, he gives you absolutely nothing. Nothing on the court. Can't create a shot. Can't hit a hook shot in the paint. Can't do nothing. No rebounds. Plays defense. You know, his defense not solid. I mean, plus, it's not to pick on Al Horford. It's just to say that some pieces that you can move and probably make some differences. I personally would have started Grant Williams over. I would have started Grant Williams over Horford to begin with. I had Horford coming off the bench warming up. I mean, but that's just me. But you know, the dynamics of the teams. You know, they had ways that they played. They had, you can't take nothing away from the Boston Celtics. They got there, they did their thing. But the biggest thing is the Miami Heat are serious. The Miami Heat, they took out the number 1 seeded Bucks, and then they got the number 2 seed. So they beat both two of the top teams, and the Celtics and the Bucks were heavy favorites to win. Now the other team that's heavy favorite to win it all, the Denver Nuggets. Let's look at the Denver Nuggets for a minute. Now you're getting ready. They already calling Jokic the best player on the planet. 2 regular season MVPs under his belt. What are he gonna do in the finals? That's my question. And how is he gonna be prepared for that Heat defense that they're gonna throw at him? Because we know Spoelstra going special to try to limit the effects of the Joker. We know that when it comes to certain players, man, it ain't no stopping them. But just to limit the effects, or slow them down a little bit, do something. I mean, but I'm wondering who gonna hold Jamal Murray. I mean, on the other end, who gonna stop Butler? But Caleb Martin gonna be a factor. But my other thing that I'm looking at is, with the Joker being who he is and the way that he passes the ball and stuff, the challenge really gonna be shutting down the other players. And I think the Heat got a good chance. But maybe, we're gonna see what Jamal Murray. This series right here gonna show us what we already think we know about Jamal Murray, if he comes up big or if he comes up short. Either way, it's gonna be a great series. I think, in my mind, as far as I don't know how many games it's gonna go, because Denver looks so good, but they can walk away with it. But then again, Miami can bust you in the head too. So I'm hoping to see a 7-game series, a good series, but it could be cut short. Hopefully, no injuries in this series like that messed up this last game 7. It would have been good to see what Jason Tatum would have done if he didn't get injured. But in my mind, it wasn't just Tatum and Jaylen Brown thing. It was the whole Boston Celtic collective. It was the whole squad. They gotta be better, man. After making it to the finals last year, you thought that maybe they had finally got over the hump and they had learned something, the dynamics, and all these people talking about that they don't play well together. Well, that's about a coaching strategy. You gotta make them play well together. You gotta make the pieces move right in order for them to play well together. It's one ball, other round, ball have this time. You take them this time. Let me take them this time. Boston, they're gonna be fine. Boston gonna be fine in the long run in the future. If I'm them, like I said, I might change a few pieces. Everybody say they need another point guard. I personally think Smart is cool as the point guard. I personally think Brogdon as a backup. Like I said, it's all here. It's all in the head for the Celtics with me. It's not about the players that they have specifically. It's not even about Al Horford. I would get someone a little bit more athletic and somebody that could step up and do more than just shoot a 3-point shot. all those guys just started shooting threes. Derek White was doing good going to the bucket for a while and keeping the game close. And then even he decided, hey, well, it look like nobody else is trying, so now I'm gonna start jacking. But like they never had that inspirational moment to me. But the Heat had all the momentum the whole series, in my opinion. Like you just knew at some point Jimmy was gonna have that impact on the game where he took 28 shots and he had like 28 points. But the point is, slowing the game down. When the game slowed down, the Celtics kept jacking those threes and they weren't falling. So it pretty much shows you that, hey, if we play our style of ball, the Heat gonna come out and they're gonna play good defense, and that's gonna always keep them in games. It's gonna always make the games interesting. You're not gonna really blow them out too much. You might beat them here and there, and then if you do blow them out, it's the shots not falling. But the Heat were able to make these shots because they ran better half court sets. They had better spacing. Bam Adebayo didn't go crazy in the series, but he was on the glass. The offensive rebounds, the hustle plays are all that make Miami. And I'm wondering if Denver is ready for a team that's going to hustle the way that Miami's going to hustle, because they haven't seen it yet. They haven't seen a team like that yet coming out of against the teams that they played against coming out. But that's all, that's all it is. I mean, who going to be the MVP of the finals? Is it going to be the Joker, or is it going to be Jimmy Butler? And if Jimmy Butler wins with those scrubs, man, I'm trying to tell you, you got to think. I just mentioned Carmelo Anthony retiring, Hall of Fame. He never made it to the finals, but he never even took scrubs to the finals. Jimmy Butler going to take scrubs to the finals twice. I mean, twice in the last 4-5 years, 2 times in the last, going to the finals and been in the Eastern Conference Finals, 3, 5 or whatever it is. I mean, I'm just saying, it seemed like it's the Boston and Heat thing in the East. No matter how much I want it to be the Bucks, no matter how many people want it to be Giannis, which leads me to where's Giannis gonna stand when all the smoke is cleared. Is Giannis gonna win more championships in Milwaukee, or will something gonna change there? I mean, one championship for all that, for having all that talent and being all that great. Did you see the Joker just now getting his first crack? But you got to give it a props. First time ever in the finals. I mean, that's got to mean something. Now, how good is the Joker and those guys? How good is the coach, Michael Malone, that all those guys are able to say that this is their first time making it to the finals? The first time making it to the finals in team history, in franchise history. So that's got to mean something for the effort that those guys put in and how good they are. I mean, it's got a great team. What you get ready to watch, whether we like it or not, whether it's your favorite team, whether it's your least liked team, whatever. These two teams right here, they ain't the sexiest teams that could have been. These ain't the sexiest matchups that could have been with all the playoffs being, with all of it being said and done. But it's the matchup that we get, and it's going to be a good matchup. I think that both teams earned where they are. I don't think anything was a shortcoming. I still think that Denver had a little bit of easier route, and I don't know exactly what they're gonna do. Like, they got good offense, but what their offense gonna do against that defense of Miami is the question. So the other questions I have is it me, or when you watch like these series, as we watch these series going along, we see the disparities, and sometimes you see the disparities in free throws, sometimes you see little to no free throws. So my question is, like, how have the refs lack impacts on the game affected the game? Letting the players decide it mostly at certain points, but then sometimes, like looking at it, when the refs should call, like they call a travel on one end when the other guy did the same thing on the other end, and they don't call that a travel. Sometimes it's just the pick. For the brother account, dishing dirt on his just dishing dirt on his counterparts. I mean, that's kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying? So I look at it like, man, it's all up for grabs. But if you're a betting person, who you betting on? You betting on the Nuggets? You betting on the Heat? Who you got? Like, as for me, I'm gonna go with Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. And I'm gonna go with the Miami Heat. I like the story, the undrafted players. I like the whole script that they got going on. I like everything that they're doing. And now, real quick, with a shout out to Nerd Focus, the energy drink. Check that out. Um, and Fancy Lips Cosmetics. If you like organic makeup supplies, check out fancylips.com. That's PHANSEE lips.com. All right. Now I'm checking out the Golden Knights, man. They get they get ready to go up against the Florida Hurricanes. Congratulations to those two teams making it in hockey. And even though I don't watch hockey much, the thing that I want to say about this is the Golden Knights haven't been a team very long, and look at what they've done. They in another finals, and then look at the Florida Hurricanes. It's a good time to be in the Miami area right now. The Florida Hurricanes made it that far. So hats off to them. It's going to be a good series. But my thing is, are the Hurricanes going to have anything against the Golden Knights, who are the heavy favorites? And I'm thinking that, it's hockey. Crazier things that happen, but I'm smelling an upset. I'm going with the Florida Hurricanes in that one, um, just because all the talk has been about the Vegas Golden Knights and how good they are. Um, but I think they're gonna meet the imagine the level of competition. It's gonna be some good. It's gonna be some good games on the ice. And to wrap up, before I completely just get off the NBA, it's been a great season for the most part. Injuries, oh excuse me, injuries, load management. We talk stat padding, all the different things that can happen. All the players with the individual things, the Kyrie thing, the John Morant thing, um, you know, um, all the talk about the Russell Westbrooks and the Patrick Beverleys, and the list goes on and on as far as the parodies and all the different things in the NBA. So the NBA has actually impressed me this year and actually put on a good playoffs. Not that they haven't tried in the past, but now viewership has been up, ratings have been up. It's starting to show. Compared to previous years, I mean, ratings have been up. In these modern eras, a lot of people have been finding it hard to watch basketball. So welcome back, NBA, and good thing you putting. It seems like new faces are getting out there. So if the Joker wins, then that means within the last 3-4 years, a competition, Giannis Antetokounmpo, um, the Joker gonna get one. Remember, Steph got his fourth and all that stuff the year before, and then before that, I think it was the Lakers got theirs. So Anthony Davis. So all these new faces. I mean, not to take nothing away from LeBron. I know LeBron on that team. I'm just saying the faces that are going to carry the league after LeBron's gone, because LeBron's in his 20th year. I'm saying that the core players, it's their time to shine. So you've seen Anthony Davis, you've seen um, Giannis, you've seen. And now you're seeing the Joker. I mean, these are all the players that we talk about. When Luca gonna join the party? Doncic, when he gonna join the party? Devin Booker, all those guys. When they gonna put their names up there, or will they ever put their names up there? Will Tatum and Brown ever win? I mean, even if they never win, like I said, they still got the best thing going. And the only thing that's gonna bring is cohesiveness. You win together, lose together. And these guys are young. I think the Celtics have the most promise because of their age and because they can tie in they two top players for a long period of time. But you look at Miami. If Miami loses, then what moves do Miami make? But we're not even there yet. We're gonna see some of the best basketball we could probably see offensively and defensively between those two teams. I think it's gonna get ugly games with. I mean, how's Denver gonna react when they shot not falling? Are they gonna find ways to gut out wins? Or, those are the things that I'm interested in seeing coming down to the finals. But again, hats off to the NBA for putting on a great show. And now I want to talk a little bit about this Spence Jr. and Crawford. Gonna be the thing. Heard me on the show. I cried for that. Said, "Hey, let's get boxing back to where boxing is, popping, where the real boxers box and stuff like that. So we getting back to the where the real boxers box. We getting back to where the real, like now they starting to bring on the fights. And I don't know what takes so long to make these fights happen. Could have happened a few years ago, but now is the time maybe just to see who's who. I'm not going to pick anybody just yet because it's a long way away from the fight, we still got to see if it's going to happen. You know how that is. Like somebody get injured while training, and then the next thing you know, the fight call off. So I'm gonna hold off on it. But right now, it is looking real good for boxing. I'm wondering what the undercard of that fight gonna look like. Maybe maybe you add a couple of more good fights on there to make it a real good pay-per-view night for that fight, Crawford and Spence Jr. But I think, like really and truly, both of those fighters have put it out there. Both of them fighters can go at it. Both of them got good hands, man. So, and both of them got good tactical skills. So you don't know who's going to take the fight. Like really, and that's what makes it more interesting. It's like, like you just got to be a fan of one or the other to really try to decipher it or really try to pick. I mean, I know Crawford has been heralded as being one of the best pound for pound. Spence Jr. was considered one of the best pound for pound years back. I mean, what I'm saying is that they right there together. So it's like it's gonna be hard to tell, and it's gonna be a good fight. I mean, that's what we want to see, a good fight. We don't want to see no, after this last fight where they pretty much gave it. Come on, everybody know the drill. They pretty much gave the fight to Haney, David Haney. As far as Lomachenko held his own. They both held their own. But come on, man, like a unanimous decision. That was just like all the judges was on the Haney juice, and that's just all it is sometimes, which sucks for the sport, right? But it still makes for a rematch. I said that last week. Maybe we'll see a rematch of that fight. But now back to the Crawford Spence Jr. fight. It should be a good fight to watch. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of people tuning in just to see who's the creme de la creme, in the welterweight division and in those weight classes, those lower weight classes. I still can't wait until they bring heavyweight championship boxing back to the U.S. But right now, we got to do what we got to do. Hands is hands, man. Like, so who you got throwing them hands? I'm still riding. Like I said, I'm going to hold off on my pick. But early on, I can just give you a sneak peek. I'm thinking more Crawford. Even though I like Spence Jr., I like his speed, I like his movements. Doesn't really, like I ain't gonna say his defensive skills remind me of Floyd, but they kind of similar with the defensive ability there. I mean, it's there. It's not quite as sharp as a Floyd Mayweather, but hey, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure the boxing world looking forward to a good fight, and those that those boxing purists, I'm pretty sure they looking for a good fight also. Somebody to come in, and let the fight get real good. Other things I have, before I get into the NFL, I want to talk a little bit more about fans and teams, man. Like, sometimes we bound by geographical means for representing our teams, right? Like you're looking at, like sorry teams that have never won anything ever have loyal fan bases. I mean, is it just a geographical thing? Is it just a pride thing of being from that area, repping that, being about that? I mean, like me being from Houston, I'm not a Houston Texans fan. Everybody know that. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I explained why, like on my first couple of shows. But just to reiterate why, is because the Houston Oilers left, and then they left us without a team for a while, and I never jumped on the Houston Texans train when the Houston Texans came. But at the same time, I see what the city's doing. I always pay attention, but it just happened to be that I'm riding. Once I started riding with the Cowboys, it was no switching back. And I haven't lived in Houston in a long time, by the way. I've been up everywhere, but I say that because like typically when I'm up in Minnesota, it's a huge Viking Wild, and then you hit Wisconsin, Green Bay, that like they rep their areas a lot, like where you see the interstate, the crossing the states or whatever, the trans-state thing going on up there. Like if they from Minnesota and they live in Wisconsin, then they rooting for Minnesota. Vice versa. So I've seen all the rivalries. I've seen even in Oklahoma, watching the Bedlam, the Oklahoma City against against the OU, the soon state, all about those ride stuff like that. And I say that to say that I commend those that have been fans of, like, let's see, Oakland A's right now. The diehard fans that are still down with the Oakland A's. I mean, they won like 12 games this year or something, and they're on a record pace to have the most losses ever in Major League history. Is how sorry they are playing right now. And they getting ready to leave Oakland. Is it a sign that it's time to leave Oakland? What is Oakland doing running off all these teams anyway? The Raiders already went to Vegas, and now the A's are going to Vegas. I mean, it's something going on there. Um, there's something going on there. Maybe it's going to be a good thing. Maybe it's not. You know what I'm saying? Um, but um, a lot of different things are happening right now. So hitting the NFL up with a shout out to Fam Brand. Check out their gear. I'm always rocking their gear and stuff like that. Fam Brand. You can check them out at fam.brand on Instagram. Check them out for the latest gear. Now, I want to get into this whole DeAndre Hopkins thing, man. DeAndre Hopkins, a free agent. The Cardinals cut him. When they waived him, they let him go. Said bye-bye, got him out of there, released him. However you want to slice it. They got rid of him, so he's on the market. And his teams out there, that could use his services and stuff like that. Now, and I've heard the Browns speak. Deshaun Watson talking about he wouldn't mind him being a Brown. I heard him say maybe the Patriots. Listening to all the experts, I heard him say maybe the Cowboys. He throw their name in the hat. The Dolphins. I heard all these teams, but I'm thinking some place for him to make a lot of money. Kansas City. I wouldn't be shocked if he went to Kansas City. That wouldn't be a shock to me. But and I also wouldn't be shocked with a guy like him. He went to, like he got traded to the Cardinals or whatever, and that was a trade. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to win. I wouldn't be surprised if he picked somewhere like Baltimore to get him a play on the other side of OBJ, or if they can afford it, or if they even interested or whatever. Or I see them going down to somewhere like New Orleans or something, man. Go to the Saints or something, hook up with Derek Carr down there. Make them a little bit stronger, which you hear it, Derek Carr working with. Get this, of all people, John Gruden. John Gruden, a guy that they threw out of the league, is able to work with a guy, consult on a team and work with him. See, I don't understand the philosophy, but that's all that backdoor stuff. That's when they say, John, we was wrong for throwing you under the bus like that, because we know that it was all about that Washington football team. That's, that old ownership and stuff. Good riddance to that. But I'm just saying the whole John Gruden thing. And I hear all this stuff about John Gruden being this great with quarterbacks and all that stuff. When was he ever great with quarterbacks? He had Brad Johnson when he was in Tampa Bay, when he was the coach of Tampa Bay. He had Rich Gannon when he was the coach back in the days of the Raiders. The man won a Super Bowl, and that was Tony Dungy's Super Bowl. Remember, that defense won that Super Bowl. It was nothing to do with a quarterback. So when did John Gruden become this great quarterback guru? I'm waiting to name a quarterback that he, who did he work with? Who did he develop that turned out to be great? I mean, that's the question that I have. Like, what quarterback? I mean, he worked with Derek Carr before, and they say, oh, well, Derek Carr had his best numbers. Well, it still wasn't all that impactful and all that great, man. So my point is, what good is that? I mean, that's just, hey, to each their own. But I'm pretty sure there's other quarterback gurus out there that can really help Carr out more than a John Gruden, especially when John Gruden don't even have. I mean, people can say all this stuff, but what track record does he have where it was good? Now, I'm not a hater. I'm not a John Gruden hater. I know all the stuff that he's been accused of doing. I'm not even getting into that because I thought he was a decent head coach. But, he struggled with the Raiders organization. But you see, that's just the Raiders organization and the way it's being led from the top above the coaches and stuff like that. That's where the Raiders problem is. The Raiders problem, and then they don't and then the players on the field, they don't make it no better. But at the same time, I'm not a huge Derek Carr person. But at the same time, you see why Derek Carr's career is where it is. When you start grasping at straws and, Gruden, I was better. And then he said, I'm all ears. I'm listening. I'm paying attention. I'm observing. What are you observing, Derek Carr, at this stage of your career, man? I mean, Dak taking a lot of flack here lately in the news for not getting over these certain humps, but nobody putting the pressure on these Derek Carrs. Nobody saying nothing about some of these quarterbacks. And speaking of quarterbacks struggling, man, they need to quit showing all that film and stuff, man. The Baker Mayfield film and the trash, the trash, the Steve Trash, or whatever is films. Also go the fundamentals and stuff like that. So we're gonna wait to see when the season start exactly what you got with those quarterbacks. But at the same time, if you're struggling right now in OTAs with no pressure, imagine what you're gonna do when it is pressure. I mean, I'm just saying, like, some things you have to look at and you have to be open to it. So DeAndre Hopkins, good. It's a lot of good places where the dude could go. I mean, I would love to have him in Dallas, but we got Brandon Cooks and stuff, so I don't think we really looking at him real seriously. Even though he would be a welcome addition. C.D. Lamb. I mean, we still got some pieces already. So and how they all gonna get the rock. So you know, if we miss him, we miss him. I originally thought the Patriots would be a good place for him, but then I thought about it, Mac Jones, Bill Belichick. Nah, probably not. And it's got nothing to do with Bill O'Brien to me, with their history or whatever. Him having played for O'Brien before. That ain't got nothing to do with it to me. What it's got to do with to me is uh, it might not be a good fit. Bill Belichick ain't for everybody. And if you ain't coming there to try to win, because I'm sure the Patriots want to win. If you think the Patriots don't want to win, if you think Bill Belichick ain't trying to win, then you're in the role, I don't know what planet you on. But I'm just saying, like, um, eventually better things. I mean, a better team will probably pop up, and I see the Miami Dolphins. The reason why I'm like, the Dolphins. Don't the Dolphins already have enough in their wide receiver room, they wide receiver core? I mean, they gonna add another receiver, then they might be the only team to ever have three. Well, be one of those teams that had three 1,000-yard receivers in a season or something. For four maybe. I mean, what are they gonna do with all that? Just spread the ball, but. Anyway, DeAndre Hopkins, it's a lot of good options out there. I mean, I can see him in Pittsburgh. It's a lot of places I can see this guy's services because a lot of teams could use his services right now. Um, I wouldn't even trip if he was entertaining the idea of going back to Houston and playing with the young guy, Bryce Young down there. I wouldn't, Oh, I'm sorry. Bryce Young went to the Carolina Panthers. Excuse me. I mean, Stroud, C.J. Stroud. Excuse me. I wouldn't mind him going to play with C.J. Stroud. Or going to Carolina and playing with Bryce Young. I mean, there it is right there. He got so many options. But if you want to be competitive, I mean, I'm Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to look up Kansas City. They're like, man, how much y'all to give me for coming to this squad? I mean, that's the first question I'm at. I ain't even sitting and waiting. I want to win championships. I'm going to Kansas City. Kansas City seem like they got it on lock. I mean, the Bengals wide receiver room full. I mean, because they might have it on lock, but I'm just saying, like certain destinations, and you never know if the 49ers can swing it and then put him on the other side of Brandon Ayuk with Debo Samuel, slashing and playing, slot and all this, man, that'll be a potent team. That'll be a potent thing. But it's so many teams that you can go to. But, for a minute, I want to talk about, last week, I talked about, the week, I didn't have a show last week, but the week before I was talking about the AFC and NFC West. And now I want to pick up on the AFC and NFC North divisions, looking at some of the projections that you can have. Well, starting with the AFC North, when you look at it, you had the Bengals, you had the Ravens, and then you had the Steelers, and then you had the Browns. It depends. For me, it depends on what Deshaun Watson gets back to, what level of his former self he can reach, if at all, or how that division is really going to pan out. Because I don't really like the Browns organization as an organization. I don't like the Browns. I'm not a huge Brown guy. I don't think they've ever done enough to try to show that they win it, that they want to win. But I think now they're trying to show some signs that they want to win with some of the moves that they made lately. And what I'm looking at is, all four of those teams could be problems. I mean, you know what the Steelers going to give you because of Tomlinson as they coach. What the Bengals are expected to be. It might be but I don't know. And you know what the Ravens can be when regardless of who around. If Lamar Jackson is healthy, but you see Burrow, you see Jackson, you see and then you coming in with Pickett, and then you got Watson. It's gonna be tough in that division, but one thing that most of those teams have in common is defense. They love to beat each other up. They play hard defense. So, that division, but that division might be the toughest. It might be the toughest in coming up this next season. Last season, everybody was predicting the AFC West. They didn't really pan out that way. I don't want to jinx these divisions by saying, I don't want to jinx the AFC North by saying it might be the toughest division. At the AFC East, at the AFC, see what Jackson is with OBJ and Zay Flowers, and still having Andrews to throw to. We're going to see what kind of running game, how they shift their running game. Will he run less? Will he run more? Or will he run the same as he has in the past? We're going to see what strategies stuff they implement to make it a little bit different. And Queen and those boys on defense, I really like them for the Ravens. But then I look at Pittsburgh and T.J. Watt, that defense led by T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. They got some players. They got some players over there on that defensive side of the ball for the Pittsburgh Steelers that's going to probably have to amp up. They're going to probably have to bring it. But on the offensive side of the ball, for me, is where we're going to see if Pittsburgh made any strides. Well, every year to me, it seems like Harris gets bigger and bigger as they running back. So I don't know, is he gonna come in shape? Is he gonna be hitting the holes right? And then they need somebody to complement him. They probably need a shiftier running back to give them something. And they got some all right receivers with Deontay Johnson. They got some all right people, but can Pickett get them the ball? Is he gonna take steps, or is he gonna progress or regress? That's always something you got to worry about with a quarterback in his second year, and he has took a couple of taps to the head. So we got to see how those hits have affected him going into this year and what's the game plan. But like I said, we know Tomlin gonna try to make them strong. And now the Browns, we can look at the Browns and we can say, well, with the Deshaun Watson and then you got Amari Cooper. You got some pieces on offense. You still got Nick Chubb. One of the best running backs in the league currently. So that's going to be good. But for me, it's always been about this Browns defense that seems to give up on games in certain points, especially when the offense ain't producing. It seems like the defensive morale goes down or the defensive intensity goes down for the Browns. I mean, at least from the games that I saw, where it seemed like the defense kept them in it for as long as they could, but when the offense couldn't get going, then the defense gave up. But Myles Garrett could be one of those sack master dudes, but why is he not ranked higher than he is? But it's because he plays for the Browns. We all know that, and the Browns never win. Sometimes you got to win. You got to win some things in order to get your name up there. But out of those four teams, taking that division is going to be a tough one. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to say that I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns gave a true run for the division. The Steelers gave a true run for the division, but we know it's going to come down between the Ravens and the Bengals. And last year, I think the Bengals ended up getting it only because Lamar Jackson got injured. When Lamar Jackson got injured, that changed everything. It seemed like, but I still think the Bengals are going to take it this year outright because I think Joe Burrow coming in, ready to ball, and he seemed like he right there, man, I wouldn't be surprised if they made it back to the AFC Championship game. However, just taking that division, they're going to be the champs. So I'm taking the Bengals early on in the AFC North, without even seeing a preseason game, without even seeing anything, just the projections, just on paper, just looking at the rosters, just looking at what they got and knowing that Joe Burrow seems to want it more than the competition a lot of times. Right now, if I had to take two quarterbacks, it'll be a toss-up. Not really. I'll take Patrick Mahomes, and I wasn't even a Patrick Mahomes guy, but Patrick Mahomes won me over with the winning. And the thorough, being so thorough and being so durable, being reliable, and wanting to win, and being innovative out there on the field, being creative, making plays. There's only one Patrick Mahomes, but then if I had to go another quarterback, long story short, I'm taking Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looks like he's that guy that's ready to make that move, man. He's ready to take a team anywhere. And what I like the most about the Bengals is their attitude has changed. Now that they got a winner, they got some winning players. They got and they got coaches with winning attitudes. That's the difference to me. And I'm hopefully Stefanski and those guys at the Browns are following suit or paying attention to that. But it's a couple of teams that I was looking at, like the AFC teams. When you really look at it, with the youngness of the quarterbacks, it's just that division. You got some teams. You're talking about four teams that could be possibly trying to build long-term dynasties with the moves that they made. Where they got their quarterback. Back, and then I'm really thinking that the AFC North could be that division tougher than any other division. And then when you look at the NFC North, Man, the NFC North is wide open this year because the Vikings have been up and down, and with no Aaron Rodgers over there, Green Bay had dominated the NFC North for years, and now that they out of there, remember he was talking about he owned the Bears and all this other stuff, so now he out of there. But then you got the Minnesota Vikings who won the division last year. They was tough, but are they gonna be tough again this year? You just don't know about the Vikings. They be up and down. So and it seemed like last year it looked like the Lions was on the rise, but you don't know exactly how that's going to turn out because it's Detroit. And it go either way with Detroit. It could go back the way that it came. Hopefully, they give you some good ball. But and then you're looking at Chicago. Chicago won like 3 or 4 games last year. Like and they sold out. They got rid of all their defensive players. So I don't know what. To be honest, I don't know what Chicago is really going to have outside of Justin Fields. They made a couple of moves here, but they ain't really do nothing spectacular in my mind that's going to really sway some stuff that's going to really make um, some headlines, like some big moves. In my opinion, I don't know about Chicago. They might be bottom of that. They're gonna probably be bottom of that division again. And then Green Bay. You don't know where Green Bay is gonna fall in there as far as wouldn't it be something though? Here's something. Here's a stimulate your mind moment. Wouldn't it be something if Jordan Love comes in there and takes Green Bay like to a Super Bowl or something, or to an NFC Championship game or something like that? Or he comes in and he has these astronomical numbers and the team takes off and the Green Bay Packers end up taking off. Then when people say that it was a year too late for Aaron Rodgers to leave, or what would the narrative be then? Because like I already said, we're gonna talk about that another day. But I don't see the Jets going anywhere. That's just my pick. And it's not just to be stubborn. It's just paying attention. Sometimes as a diehard fan, it's just about paying attention. And the one, like the biggest things that I pay attention to, like take Green Bay. Green Bay, Green Bay's problem has always been the same, no matter what coach they've had. The reason why they've won only one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers is because no matter what coach they have, they never see the value of defense. They never see the value of defensive players, of really, I mean, you can have one or two defensive players can make a change here and there, but I'm talking about bringing in a defensive coordinator where the whole defense buys into your philosophy and wants to come out and be that monster. Those are the things that have lacked to me with Green Bay. And not only that, they fall short a lot of times. The offense don't show up when it should in big games. That was with Aaron Rodgers. They didn't show up at times in big games and stuff like that. But I think it's some of the flex too. I think if those dudes start wearing sleeves up there in that cold, with Green Bay have those advantages, start wearing some sleeves and stuff like that, man. I think keep yourself warm, do what you can do to be comfortable out there so you could give your best game. Going out there to flex, I think sometimes that interrupted their flow too. But not to give them no excuses, because ain't no excuses in this. But if Green Bay can turn it around and their defense can step up, we'll see what can happen. Um, but as far as winning that division, man, I'm looking at, I think it's going to come down to, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if the Packers were to take that division, but I think it's going to come down to what the Vikings do, period. I don't know if the Lions are ready to take that leap. We'll see if they're ready to take that leap, but you got to take it. And like I said, it's wide open, but it also just depends on which Minnesota team decides to show up. It's going to be the Minnesota team that has a good season, a playoff season, and then drop off and not have a playoff season. Is it going to be those guys, or is it going to be, or is Minnesota going to try to, hold steady? That's what it all boils down to me. Who's going to win the division? Now, when I look at those divisions, the division rivalry games, there's going to be some tough games amongst it. They go, like the NFC North. What I'm looking at is the skilled players. You got to. What makes that division unique is outside of Kirk Cousins. Outside of Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff, with Jared Goff being there, it's like the core of that division is young. A whole host of young people, young talent, since just all these young players right now. Watson, the receiving cores are young. The defensive personnel pretty much are young, and so you're getting ready to see some good ball. Most of the veterans are on the Minnesota Vikings. I guess the Minnesota Vikings would be the most veteran team in that division. Um, you know, so you look at it, Minnesota, it should be their division. So but who knows? You can only stay in your prime for so long before you start to decline. So, and I'm not huge on Kirk Cousins. You know, I'm sure you remember the last football season. Kirk Cousins. I just think that, but in terms of regular season, we talking regular season. We talking winning the division. I just think Minnesota is their division to win. Is their division to lose. Until one of those other teams prove us wrong, we don't know what we're gonna get from Jordan Love yet. So, just looking at all that and just thinking about this season coming in and the players playing. I heard a lot of talk, to go back to the NBA, everybody wooing and wowing over a 7'5" guy taking the ball between his legs, going off the backboard, taking the ball between his legs and dunking the Wembanyama and stuff like that. He's 7'5" people, his arms are long, so even though it's impressive, it's cool. But I do agree. The one time I agree with a lot of the experts, majority of the experts, is I cannot wait until this guy plays an NBA game, a meaningful NBA game, just to see what he really has. You know, that's where I'm at with it. Our guys gonna really try to D him up, but we know defense has been lacking the regular season, this past regular season. But we're gonna see what happens anyway. What Wembanyama has on the game. That was just a brief random thought just to throw out there. And before while the show winding down, another shout out to Nerd Focus Energy Drink. Get your brain right, your game tight with Nerd Focus, and then check out Fancy Lips Cosmetics at fancylips.com. Also, Fam Brand, check them out at fam.brand on Instagram for their gear. And Snook One Productions, I'm big up in myself. Thanks for Sports for America for putting me on. I didn't say that. I'm out here in Dallas, Texas, and Dallas, the Dallas Stars just went through the heartbreak a bit, eliminated from the hockey Western Conference Finals. They were beat by, the aforementioned Golden Knights. They tried to make a comeback, but the Golden Knights seemed to have a number. It was almost like one of the things the Heat with the Celtics. But hats off to the Dallas Stars for doing their thing, hanging in there, playing tough, doing what they do. And so before you say I got on Celtic green, think about the Dallas Stars or whatever, but actually it's just green. Anyway, another I was talking NFL and I was talking AFC North. If I look at the AFC North, from each team, I guess my stimulating mind moment with the AFC North and the NFC North, from each team, all-time best players from those teams, or all-time all-time fan favorites from those teams. When I was a kid, the Cincinnati Bengals, they went to the Super Bowl. Boomer Esiason was the quarterback. They had Icky Woods doing the Icky Shuffle. Yeah, I did the Icky Shuffle in my living room once or twice because I was a kid, and that's what it was. But I think Joe Burrow is now going to be that favorite all-time Bengal. Chad Ochocinco for me was that guy. Chad Johnson, whatever you want to call him. I always thought that he was a good representative of the Bengals, even though they never won anything. And that's exactly what they would do, break your heart all the time. That's the Bengals, So that is what it is. Now, my favorite Brown, I used to love the running backs, so I love the Ernest Biner. But Jim Brown, may he rest in peace. And I never even saw the guy play on a live taping or on a, other than old film, is what I'm trying to say. I never like he was before my time, but Jim Brown, just the reputation, the Hall of Famer, the activist, the person, may he rest in peace. But I think to me, he's my all-time favorite Brown, with a close backup. Remember the Vinny Testaverde years. I liked him and I liked Ernest Biner, but I got to give it to Jim Brown as that guy. Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Steelers. Again, when I was a kid, they had Mean Joe Green, his career was almost over. You know, I've seen a lot of good players in that uniform. Slash for me, Cordell Stewart. I can go down the list of good. You know, I ain't even talking James Harrison them and Troy Polamalu, probably one of the most modern favorites and stuff like that. You know, they had the bus Jerome Bettis. I mean, for a team like Pittsburgh, it's hard to pick Bradshaw or Franco Harris who passed a while ago also. So there's so much, but Franco Harris always had the most memorable Pittsburgh still a moment. But for me, um, I'm gonna have to go with Mean Joe Green. I'm gonna have to get to the defensive side. I'm gonna have to stick with Mean Joe Green, even though I think T.J. Watt is making himself a name. Also, let's not forget. And then if we go talk Baltimore Ravens, all-time favorite, that's easy for me to pick. Like it came down to only two people in my mind, and that was Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. And I got to go with Ray Lewis because Ray Lewis brought the show. He come out dancing when he come out there. So I got to give it to Ray Lewis when I think about. So those are my picks for all-time favorites on those teams. And then when I look at the NFC North, when we talk all-time favorites, I start with Green Bay. For me, it was Brett Favre. I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there. Yeah, he led the league in touchdowns and interceptions one while, and he's an all-time league leader in interceptions in NFL in NFL history. But Brett Favre was that guy for me. He played through injuries. He was tough, man, tough as nails. He gave it all that he had. He went, we saw him go through his issues, or whatever. But Brett Favre was that guy. So I go Brett Favre. I mean, even though there's several others you can name when Reggie White was there, that was cool, but I got to go with Brett Favre. I also like, the Antonio Freemans. It was like quite a few of those guys that were tough that, probably never would have got credit, but I give it to Brett Favre. And then when I'm looking at the Lions, of course, my all-time favorite Lion of all time is always going to be my favorite running back of all time, by the way, which is Barry Sanders. I think he's the number one running back ever. That's just my opinion as a diehard fan. But Barry Sanders is my top Lion. I also did like Spielman on the defensive side of the ball for them. But and Megatron, you can't forget about Calvin Johnson, honorable mention. But at the same time, for me, it was Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was that guy for me. I think he'll be, those are the guys that legends are made of, like big time legends and stuff like that, become a myth type things, the Barry Sanders. And then who am I forgetting? Oh, the Chicago Bears. My favorite all-time Chicago Bears. I got to go Walter Payton. I loved Walter Payton. He was really good. And, for me, a close second would have been Mike Singletary. Like I said, I'm a huge defensive guy. I love defense. So, him being in the middle, him being an undersized linebacker, I really like that. So, I got to go with – but I got to say Walter Payton, man. Watching him run over people on Sundays when I was a kid was a classic. So, I got those throwback things. But now, so my question is, who going to step into those roles nowadays? Who going to, benefit? And I ain't even named my Viking. My favorite all-time Viking has to be Randy Moss. Even though he's, he's my all-time Viking. Chris Carter would be a close second. Um, I did like John Randall. I like what he does for the community up there as well. But at the same time, you gotta, keeping it just fan faves and stuff like that. Randy Moss was huge. Chris Carter was huge, but I got to go with Randy Moss. I think Randy Moss was electric. He was exciting. A couple of quarterbacks earned fame by playing with Randy Moss. There, resurrected a career. Remember Randall Cunningham, but then all he could do was throw that ball down, slaying that ball downfield. Or Moss catch it, he gone. Those are the type of things that I always like to see. So I got to give my props where credit is due to some of the best to ever do it, in my opinion. Now, with the last few minutes of the show, WNBA done cranked up, and we got to see, Breanna Stewart last night played her first game back with the Seattle Storm, against the Seattle Storm. And now she plays for the Liberty or whatever. So, but she dropped buckets on. She did. Uh, uh, for that But early from what I see, it's gonna like it's gonna come down. Uh, you know, I don't know. I think the Chicago Sky got a good chance this year. I think it's there's a couple of teams that got a good chance. The Liberty have a great chance. I would be surprised if the Liberty. I would be surprised if the Liberty don't make it to the finals or make it to the championship and had a first little run as far as winning it. I would be surprised because they put together a squad over there. But that Vegas team still lurking. So we're gonna see what happens for the WNBA when it starts to get hyped up. And I guess some of the biggest things that a player, excuse me, a player I forgot to mention when I was talking about the AFC North. Hines Ward was my dude, and this is why Hines Ward was my dude. It wasn't because he had the best hands and he was a great receiver or nothing like that. It was the dirty work that he would do, the blocks. Anything that was asked of him on the field, of being a decoy, whatever it took to help a team win, it just seemed like that's what embodied Hines Ward. There's a lot of people saying that he don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe by numbers he don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. But I think anytime you got a champion that lays it all on the line all the time, has always been worth considered. And then you look at some of these other leagues and you see the criteria for Hall of Fame and you say, well, shit. Oh, excuse me. Well, you say, well, shoot, it ain't that hard for to see why you want to put a Hines Ward into the Hall of Fame. But anyway, just a couple of things that's coming up uh, like I said, tomorrow night gonna be game one. So I guess I might as well make my pick. I picked Miami to win the series, but tomorrow night I am going with Miami. I think they're gonna steal one in Denver. They're gonna take the first one. They coming off, but then Miami might have that kind of attitude where it's more like man, just game they might slack because might slack off. If Denver starts putting it on, they might want to elect to rest a little bit. But I hope that's not the case. I'm thinking Miami gonna come out and they're gonna try to hit them, and they're gonna try to hit them hard, and they're gonna try to steal that game one, which has been a formula throughout this playoff setting. So I'm going Miami stealing game one with Denver probably taking game two. You know, um, or you never know. Denver might, But anyway, I'm sticking with Miami. I picked Miami to win that game, and then I'm looking at, I guess, um, Mr. Otani doing his thing. We talked those guys, but I had written down something I want to talk about as far as the LA Dodgers. Like, if the Dodgers don't win the championship, then it's always like a bust of a season. But it's like those breakdowns. But when you're a team like the Yankees and you're a team like the Dodgers, and you're a team like the Mets. All these times that you're spending all this big money and you keep falling short and you're not getting the job accomplished, that is, to me, that is a disappointment or a failure as far as what you set out. You either achieve your goal or you don't achieve your goal. It's not like a lot of halfway in betweens. It's not like uh, I never heard anybody brag about going halfway up Mount. I've always heard about the people climbing all the way to the top. You never hear about people going halfway up Mount Everest. So a lot of times, I just, it depends on who you are and how you think about it. I know the world's getting a little bit more sensitive nowadays, and you got to watch different things that you say. But man, soft is soft all day. You know what I'm saying? Strength is strength. None of that stuff's gonna change. And if you got weaknesses, then you should be trying to turn your weaknesses into strengths or make them as strong as possible or whatever. So they will just be a weakness. Unlike what we saw with the Celtics. I always got to go back, what we saw that, they was a little soft around up here when it came down to execution, when they couldn't, when they couldn't get their way, to crying to the referees for every foul and stuff like that, when it should be just play the game, man. If you see the refs ain't getting you the calls, then start looking for the calls and start trying to put the ball in the bucket by any means. And that's the difference to me, those mentalities. But you're starting to see it all the way around. But my point being is that when the the Major League Baseball teams and you spent all that money and you know and you barely make the playoffs or you get put out in the early rounds of the playoffs, you don't see the league championship series and stuff like that. Where does that leave you? Does that leave you with your head hanging? How do you bounce back from that? I mean, each team gonna have to keep coming back. Yeah, after yeah, so with all team It's hard to see some of those organizations have been losers for so long. It's like we don't even, you know, like in my lifetime, I can't even remember once talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, that's just an example of what I'm talking about. I can't remember once in my lifetime saying that the Pittsburgh Pirates was okay or whatever. It's been a long time since they've been relevant. It's been a long time since they've done anything meaningful. So, it's like, but I'm not just picking on the Pirates. I'm just saying, but being a Yankee fan, it's been a long time since we've done something relevant too, other than, Judge hitting home runs or whatever, having all this home run hitting power, but no pitching. Anyway, that's my show. Sports for America.